The creature had no name in any living language. The Galactic Containment Authority simply called it Subject Zero, a designation that came after 17 failed attempts to classify it. It stood 4 meters tall at the shoulder, its hide plated in overlapping keratin scales dense enough to deflect plasma rounds. 6 limbs. Twin skulls, one for primary cognition, one purely for threat response. Pheromone glands that could induce cardiac arrest in most carbon-based species within a 12-meter radius. It had killed 43 handlers across 9 star systems. Kale Vera, Beast Handler, Class 7, the only surviving specialist who had ever gotten within 50 meters of Subject Zero, stood behind 3 layers of reinforced transparasteel and watched the creature pace its enclosure on Outpost Derval. His hands were steady. His stomach was not. "She's already on her way," said Director Omen, a Theresi official whose 4 arms were all crossed simultaneously, a gesture that, in their culture, meant this is your fault and also I am afraid. "I know," Kale said. "She's 9. I know. She's human," Kale finished. "From Kepler 452c. Yes. I read the file." The director made a sound like gravel in a disposal unit. "That planet has megafauna. The atmospheric pressure alone is 4 times standard. Gravity is 1.6 g. The native flora releases toxins that would liquefy Theresi lung tissue. The fauna includes a predator that hunts by detecting fear pheromones." Kale finally turned from the window. "And the colonists have been there for 6 generations. What does that have to do with?" "It means the child grew up learning to be calm. Not to fake calm. To be it." He looked back at Subject Zero. "That thing uses its secondary skull to detect emotional threat responses. Every handler we've sent in has been terrified. It reads them before they get through the door." The director stared at him. "You're saying a 9-year-old human child is going to succeed where 43 trained specialists fail because she's not scared enough?" Kale watched Subject Zero slam its nearest skull into the reinforced wall hard enough to leave a crater. "I'm saying she won't be scared at all," he said quietly. "And I'm saying that's the most dangerous thing in this room." Mara Ellison arrived on Outpost Derval with a duffel bag, a sun-darkened face, and the easy physicality of someone whose body had spent its entire existence fighting a planet that didn't want her alive. She was, objectively, small. For a human, compact, lean, with the kind of unconscious physical confidence that came not from training but from necessity. She'd been walking through terrain that could kill her since before she could form long sentences. She'd learned to read body language from animals that had no interest in communicating peacefully. She looked at the containment block and said, "Huh. Smaller than I expected." Kale, who had spent 6 months preparing psychological profiles and containment protocols, said, "The facility is?" "Not the facility." She nodded toward the transparasteel. "The animal." Subject Zero had gone very still. Kale noticed that first. In 3 years of observation, he had never seen it go still for any reason other than sleep, and it did not sleep often. Mara pressed her hand flat against the transparasteel. Not the cautious 2-finger touch of someone testing danger. A full palm, easy and open. "Hey," she said. The creature's secondary skull rotated toward her. Its primary skull followed a half-second later. The pheromone glands along its neck flexed, a motion Kale had learned to recognize as the precursor to a threat response, and then, slowly, went flat. "What's its name?" Mara asked. "It doesn't have one. We call it." "That's rude." She tilted her head, watching the creature watch her. "What does it do when it's not in here?" Kale blinked. "It's always been in containment." The look she gave him was not unkind, but it carried a weight of judgment that sat heavy regardless. "Since when?" "Capture was approximately 4 years ago." "It was Juvenile," he stopped. "Recalculated." 4 years. It was juvenile at the time of capture. Mara looked back at Subject Zero. Something passed over her face, not pity exactly, but something adjacent to it, sharpened by recognition. Okay, she said, more to the creature than to him. Okay, I get it. She turned to Kale. I'm going in. The protocols require a minimum of. I'm going in now, she said, before it gets its back up again. You can see it thinking. She nodded toward the creature, and Kale looked, and damn it, she was right. The secondary skull was shifting in micro-increments, beginning the slow rotation that preceded aggression. It's been alone in a box for 4 years, and everyone who comes to see it is afraid of it. That's not a monster problem. That's a loneliness problem. Kale looked at this 9-year-old child from a planet that had been trying to kill her family for 6 generations and thought, not for the first time, humans are not like other things. If you die, he said carefully, there will be significant diplomatic. I'm not going to die, she said, with the casual certainty of someone who had genuinely never considered the alternative as the more likely option. Open the door. He opened the door. Later, Kale would write in his official report that the subject demonstrated unexpected behavioral modulation in response to Handler Ellison's non-threatening biomechanical profile, which was the most clinical possible way to describe what actually happened, which was that Mara Ellison walked into a room with the deadliest creature in 6 catalogued star systems and sat down on the floor. Not at a safe distance. Not near the door. In the middle of the floor. Cross-legged. Like she was waiting for a school transport. Subject Zero circled her. Once. Twice. It dropped its head to scent level, a behavior Kale had only ever seen it perform pre-kill, and Mara sat there and let it, perfectly, completely still. Not frozen. Still. The difference was enormous and somehow readable even through the transparisteel. The creature pressed its primary skull against the side of her head. Every researcher on the observation deck stopped breathing. Mara reached up, slowly, no sudden movements, the patience of someone who had once spent 40 minutes motionless in high grass while a Kepler apex predator decided whether she was prey, and placed her hand on the ridge of the creature's jaw. Yeah, she said softly. Yeah, I know. It's awful in here. Subject Zero made a sound. It was not a sound it had ever made before. The acoustic sensors logged it as non-aggressive subvocal resonance, which meant absolutely nothing, except that it went on for a long time, and that the creature slowly, incrementally, lowered all 6 of its limbs until it was resting on the floor beside the human child. Mara scratched behind what appeared to be an auditory ridge. The creature leaned into it. His name is Biscuit, Mara announced to the observation window. Director Oman made the gravel disposal sound again. Kale laughed. He surprised himself. He hadn't laughed in this facility in 3 years. Biscuit, he repeated. He looks like a biscuit. She said it with the absolute authority of someone who had named things before and was not uncertain about the process. He needs out of this box. He needs space. And he needs, she paused, communing with something Kale couldn't access, something to do. He's bored. Bored and angry and alone. That's why he killed people. Mara. Kale pressed his hand to the intercom. The creature, Biscuit, has killed 43. Were any of them from a Deathworld? Silence. Were any of them calm? More silence. He's not a weapon, she said. You've been treating him like one. He's an animal. A really, really big, really scary animal who's been in a box for 4 years with nothing but scared people to look at. She looked up at the observation deck with an expression that was 9 years old and somehow ageless. On my planet, we have a thing called a diorma. Biggest land predator on Kepler. 6 meters, armored skull, hunts by emotion. You know what the colonists figured out in Generation 2? No one answered. If you're not afraid of it, she said, it doesn't know what to do with you. And if you're kind to it, she scratched Biscuit's jaw ridge again, and the creature that had destroyed 43 lives made its new soft sound, "It follows you home." She looked at Kale specifically. "I'm keeping him," she said. "Figure out the paperwork." Kale Vera, Beast Handler Class 7, Survivor, Professional, man who had devoted his career to understanding the most dangerous creatures in charted space, looked at a 9-year-old girl from a planet that had forged her into something beyond fear, sitting on the floor with the galaxy's apex predator purring against her knee. He pulled out his datapad. "I'll start the forms," he said. 3 months later, the Galactic Containment Authority updated its protocol manual. Under the section titled Deathworld Colonist Interaction, a single note had been added in small print. "Do not attempt to predict behavioral outcomes. They will surprise you. They always do."